Oh, hi. Just came from downstairs where we have our accountants at the Majority Report. And they were telling me what the situation is with YouTube. And we wanted to update you as to why we still need your support on our Patreon page. And that's because some of you are seeing ads in front of our YouTube videos. And it's true. Some of them have come back. As you know, back in March now, I guess, or April, our ad placement was completely wiped out. We had basically 10% of our views were getting ads, whereas it used to be in March, in February, and January, closer to 65 to 75% of our views were getting ads. Well, some of those ads have come back, and it's true of some other channels as well, but not nearly as many as we had before. And on top of that, the type of ads that we're getting have a much lower CPM. So in other words, we're getting less ads on our videos, and the ads we are getting, we're getting less money for. And that's why we're continuing our Patreon account. We don't know if this is the new normal. And frankly, YouTube is not inclined to tell us. We're not the biggest channel. I don't even know if the biggest channels are being told as to what the new normal is, but this appears to be it. So where we got $1 3 months ago, we're now getting about 40 cents. That's better than getting a dime, but we are still needing your support. So you can head over to our Patreon channel, or maybe you're at our Patreon page rather now, but either way, give a couple of bucks a month, and that would really help us continue producing as many videos as we do on a daily basis. And we want to produce more, frankly. We were geared up to do so, and then, well, so now it's not necessarily an ad apocalypse. It's more of like an ad sort of apocalypse. Thanks for your support. Really appreciate it.
Majority Report with Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?
It is Wednesday, August 2nd, 2017. My name is Sam Seder. This is the 4-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, finally, the Department of Justice to sue on behalf of white aggrievement. Meanwhile, we have only 3 years to avoid the worst-case climate change scenario. Trump's assault on your health care to continue, while Mitch McConnell vows to cut wealthy taxes without the help of Democrats, except for maybe a couple. Also, Donald Trump has no control of his administration, but the right has made progress. Coast Guard and DEA chiefs rebuke their commander-in-chief. And a big document dump Monsanto's independent research, not so independent. Meanwhile, Cory Booker becomes Jimmy Reefercake's favorite senator. And we answer the question, is Wells Fargo horrible or even worse? Meanwhile, Mueller adds a former DOJ fraud and foreign bribery investigator to his team. Weird. So strange.
It's a witch hunt.
Why would he do that? Must be wrapping things up. All that and more on today's program. And we should say right up front, Donald Trump has lamentedly, am I pronouncing that correctly? Lamentedly?
Belatedly?
No, he lamented.
He lamented. Why
He
don't you
was
say he lamented?
lamented, but I was using it as a no, as an adjective. You can't use lamentedly adverb.
I mean, I understand what you mean. So in terms of communication,
melancholy signed. Reluctantly, I guess. I don't know. I wanted to get a little more.
Sadly.
It is a word.
Sad.
It is
Yes, congratulations.
What was
Thank
his
you.
word?
lacrimosity.
Lamentedly.
Lamentedly. Okay.
Sadly.
Lamentedly signed the sanctions that were passed overwhelmingly in the House and the Senate. These sanctions are new sanctions on Russia, North Korea, and Iran. The highlight of the Russian sanctions is the congressional review provision, which basically says, the president can't mess with these. Some arguments that it's an infringement upon the president's executive power, but we'll see about that. Meanwhile, the sanctions on North Korea involve reporting requirements of the executive branch and sanctions any persons who knowingly, directly, or indirectly purchase from North Korea large quantities of certain metals, including gold, sell or transfer large quantities of rocket or jet fuel for non-commercial air travel. Sorry, Matt. You're going to have to find a different side hustle. And insures or registers government vessels or maintains correspondent account with any non-UN approved North Korean financial institution. There's apparently some type of a banking innovation that involves a sort of an arm's length type of account. Lastly, the Iran provision entitled Countering Iran's Destabilizing Activities Act of 2017. Ah, jeez.
Great name.
Great name. It really gets to the heart of the matter because it's like destabilization and such.
KIDA 217 would be the acronym. It requires the administration and update every 2 years a strategy for deterring conventional and asymmetric Iranian activities and threats that directly threaten the United States and its key allies in the Middle East, North Africa, and beyond. So that basically putting out a report. It would be interesting if someone put out the similar report of what we actually just do.
What we do or what the Saudis do.
That would
the
be
great irony is that these brigades and people they're targeting now are at least synced up with us when it comes to Syria, because groups like Hezbollah are the ones that are actually beating back Jabhat al-Nusra. And this is what gives credence to that dumb left argument. When you see something like Hezbollah just took ground from al-Qaeda in Syria recently, and then we're sanctioning them, it's like, well, wait a second.
Right.
Wouldn't you prefer that?
Well, I mean,
Apparently not.
They're also
Yeah.
the same people who are pushing this don't know the difference between Iran and Al-Qaeda anyways.
Well, that's true. But then you also have a guy like David Petraeus who does know the difference, but he's out of government. And he wrote a couple years ago that we should think about aligning with Al-Qaeda in Syria against the Shia.
So so you've got this reporting requirement. The bill also requires the president to sanction individuals who are facilitating Iran's ballistic missile capabilities. A ballistic missile is one of those missiles that they go straight up in a trajectory. Not straight up, but head off in a trajectory, and then gravity brings them down. And my understanding is that their ballistic missile program, I don't know how, if they have long distance or mid distance, but I guess your
even mid distance could hit Israel. And
yes,
that's what it's
easy.
about.
Yeah, your longest distance ballistic missile about 3,000 miles, I think. So they can't reach us.
It's all Israel, and maybe Saudi actually.
Right. The bill goes on to require the president sanction those who act on behalf of persons designated for this conduct, as well as facilitators and sanctions evaders. Also, there are sanctions imposing officials, agents, or affiliates of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. The bill also requires the administration report every 180 days on new designations it or the European Union has made targeting Iranian proliferators, terrorist facilitators, or human rights abusers. So this is geared towards putting requirements on the administration to maintain a certain level of Iranian hostility propaganda, essentially, or fodder for that. It is obviously Iran has a lot of other options to the extent that they are seeking any of these materials. Because the rest of the world has not signed on to these sanctions. So their efficacy is in creating feelings of distrust and hostility between us and Iran, but not necessarily in any of the things one would imagine these things were structured for, right? We're not going to cut down on the amount on their ballistic missile program. We're not going to prevent them from funding Hezbollah or whatever other activities they're going to do.
And these are all of the things that people tried to inject as poison pills. Remember when they were negotiating the agreement, Republicans and some Democrats always tried to inject this stuff versus the really narrow, specific agreement they had.
The agenda from the beginning on the nuke deal was always specifically on the narrow thing. Yes,
and they're following it.
Right.
They're doing it.
And the argument was, but you haven't handled all the extraneous things that you decided not to negotiate on.
Right. You didn't have a grand unified deal. We're not doing that. Actually having a very specific one.
All right. So let's get into, there's a couple of things that are really important to talk about. You know, you wonder why would Jeff Sessions, Jeffrey, what is his full name? Beauregard Sessions, take the slings and arrows of that uncouth man in the White House being so rude and offensive such that he had to actually travel out of the country to take a calming vacation in El Salvador to talk about MS-13. What would compel a man? It is, I'll tell you, it is a sense of mission, a sense that he is on a God-given mission to make sure white people get a fair shake in this country. In addition, of course, to the voter suppression, you remember, you have Donald Trump's Election Integrity Commission headed by Chris Kobach. But meanwhile, the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division, and within that, the political part of the Civil Rights Division, has sent letters to 50 states seeking essentially the same material in an attempt to begin to pressure states to disenfranchise voters. We also know what Jeff Sessions has done in terms of you get arrested, you're going to have your stuff basically dispossessed, even if you haven't been convicted. Also has unshackled, really not unshackled, has encouraged police departments across the country to engage in the worst of practices by saying, you will have no problems with us. So to the extent that you have felt any oversight now with anything that you're doing, that oversight will be gone. You know, it's basically like saying to your kids, hey, the liquor cabinet is over there, and I just want you to know we're definitively not going to be home, maybe ever again.
Have an open and free exchange of ideas
Yes,
with those
please.
that you put in custody. Don't suppress your freedom of movement of speech with them.
I just want to make it clear that while we're leaving you the liquor cabinet and we're not coming home, your grandpa, Don, he is going to just come over here and tell you exactly how to take shots. Right?
And
I mean,
so
that's
basically what I'm
literally-
trying to say is put some black kids in comas.
You literally had the President of the United States basically advocating the police to rough up their prisoners. And a Department of Justice that says, like, we're not going to check on you. Well, that apparently was not the only mission that God had put Jeff Sessions on. Trump administration is preparing to redirect resources of the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division. You know, I want to remind you of the interview that we did with Sam Bagenstos. I guess maybe this was in December. He was a member of this division under the Clinton administration and then under the Obama administration and saw how it had been ravaged during the Bush administration. And I would imagine if we have him back, and maybe we should soon, what we're seeing is, I mean, I hate this phrase, but that on steroids. Although steroids we're going to now allow.
Wow, I just think if a man would like the better shot hitting a grand slam home run, why shouldn't he be able to ingest experimental hormones into his own body? You ever listen to the Joe Rogan podcast?
I would also say it would certainly enhance the ability to pick cotton, let's say.
I'm just spitballing here, but say you put a young buck in prison for an unlimited term and you wanted to force them to do uncompensated physical labor, but you might want to put a little bit of a, I don't know, hormonal treatment in some of their cornmeal.
Canteen.
Might make a great deal of sense when they're mixing that up in the commissary.
So, reported today by Charlie Savage in the New York Times, the Trump administration preparing to redirect the resources of the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division toward investigating and suing universities over affirmative action admissions policies deemed to discriminate against white applicants. This is according to a document obtained by the Times. The document apparently is basically a hiring announcement. Seeks lawyers, current lawyers, interested in working for a new project on, quote, investigations and possible litigation related to intentional race-based discrimination in college and university admissions. It will be run out of the division's front office, which is where the political appointees work, rather than its educational opportunities section, which is where the career civil servants and professionals who deal with this work. Roger Clegg, a former top official in the Civil Rights Division during the Reagan administration, famous, I believe, John Roberts was there, arguing how to dismantle the Voting Rights Act. It took 30 years, but he got there. And the first Bush administration, who is now president of the Conservative Center for Equal Opportunity, with apparently a subtitle of, can you believe it? We called it that. Called the project a welcome and long overdue development. Meanwhile, Kristen Clark, who is the president of the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights under law, said this is deeply disturbing. It could be a dog whistle that could invite a lot of chaos and unnecessarily create hysteria among colleges and universities who may fear that the government may come down on them for efforts to maintain diversity on their campuses. Now, understand that the Supreme Court recently ruled that they have narrowed what is allowable under so-called affirmative action programs. They have found in the past that that there are educational benefits from having a diverse student body, as long as there is a more holistic approach to trying to increase that diversity. So if you use a combination of geography and economic status, but you can't use quotas or race-based systems. Mr. Clegg said he would expect, and he should know, folks, the project to focus on investigating complaints the Civil Rights Division received about any university admissions program. So be clear, when Abigail Fisher, who didn't get into Texas because she claimed a Latino or black person got her spot, she comes up with a complaint, they're going to have a whole team that's going to welcome her to Washington, take her complaint. And it's very hard, I would imagine, to imagine that white people would be complaining that somehow they've lost out in this. He also suggested the project...
Bob was president. What the hell? I want to go to college.
I would imagine during some lawsuits, there would be some interesting things to come out in the course of discovery as to maybe how Donald Trump got his kids into UPenn. Or maybe
tell you what, it
Jared
wasn't through
Kushner.
Affirmative action.
Right.
It was the old-fashioned way. What you do is you bribe college
right.
admissions counselors with money so your dim-witted idiot kids go to great schools. It's called America.
He suggested that the project would look for stark gaps in test scores and dropout rates among different racial cohorts within student bodies, which he said would be evidence suggesting that admissions offices were putting too great an emphasis on applicants' race and crossing a line the Supreme Court has drawn. Understand, if it is the case that African Americans at an all-white school, let's say, or a predominantly white school, feel like, wow, I feel pretty alienated here, and I drop out, this is going to be, for the Department of Justice, prima facie evidence that they didn't belong there because of their grade. Their grades were inflated to get them there. If you're looking for gaps in test scores. So the notion that perhaps I can tell you this right now, that the number of people who, in my daughter's cohort, who get tutoring for all of the tests that end up being used for admissions, whether it's in gifted and talented programs in New York City or whether it's to get into the better schools in middle school, this is all public school stuff, is I would bet, I don't even know what the multiplier is, but they all get it. I don't know, they all get it, but a lot of people get it. And it definitively helps raise your scores on these things. So the idea that you're going to look for these things as indications that black people, brown people didn't belong in the school is, I don't know what else to say. We have now an attempt. And it's just an attempt right now. I mean, there's a suggestion that maybe there's just a way of scaring schools to shut down their own programs, like, self-deport or something. But we're watching the beginnings of an attempt to institutionalize and send us back to where we were decades and decades ago in terms of making and purifying the race of the student bodies in this country.
Purifying, Jesus.
Right.
Yeah. Do you also think that we've always made the point that Trump obviously lied about the economic agenda, any type of, all of his sort of lies about populism and Wall Street and everybody being covered, but they're keeping their word with xenophobia and social reaction. And it just seems to me that with the ban being announced over Twitter of transgender people in the military, and then this, which I'm sure Sessions was planning regardless, the more they fail legislatively, like they're going to lean even heavier on this stuff, right?
Of course. Yeah. Of course. And remember,
Rubin's
Jeff
thoughts on it.
Sessions is Bannon's boy.
Right.
Jeff Sessions and Bannon seems to be the only one still standing in there.
Well, I don't exactly stand, but I fucking lead into shit.
I'll remind you that the former general, Kelly, over at DHS, ICE somehow got the word that they can go after anybody, and they should. And that if you want to go after the most vulnerable, the least harmful immigrants in this country without documentation, you want to go after moms, you want to go after kids, and you can get those numbers up, by all means, go. Do it. So it's not like the new chief of staff who's going to allow Donald Trump to pivot is going to be putting any type of brakes on this. And meanwhile, just a reminder, and that's really all, we can give at this point, because the only person whose efficacy in the administration is rivaled by Sessions would be Scott Pruitt, and maybe his is even greater. That we got two new reports out saying that, that's saying that the outlook is even worse than what we heard, I guess, about a month or two ago, when Christina Figueres, former head of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, joined with a group of climate scientists and policy wonks to state there are only 3 years left to get emissions moving sharply downward. If that is, we're holding out hope of limiting warming of the globe to below the 2 degrees Celsius, 3.6 degrees Fahrenheit, above pre-industrial temperatures, often cited as the threshold where dangerous warming begins. Now, obviously, there's a lot of interpretation involved in this and what constitutes the word dangerous. But apparently 2 new studies have come out over the past couple of days suggesting, one, that the climate has been warming longer than we thought due to human influences. So there's even less remaining carbon dioxide that we can emit to avoid 2 degrees of warming. And the other report suggests that there's only a 5% chance that the world can hold limiting below 2 degrees Celsius, and a mere 1% chance that it can be limited below 1.5 degrees Celsius, which is what a group of small islands around the world basically say they need to maintain their existence. So, just a reminder, maybe we'll get them in 2020.
Well, I voted for the candidate with the, the candidate with the Green New Deal, so I feel pretty good about that. I mean, while you're worried about this United Nations conference, not a single word about my wife's killing spree. Which, by the way, you think that she would have stayed in the Paris Agreement? She would have reversed the Paris Agreement. She would have banned black kids from college. That's what my wife planned on it. But you just sit there in your little MSNBC ivory tower making apologies for the Democratic establishment with Chris Hayes and Rachel Maddow. And y'all just have a little fun time together until we finally have this nuclear war with Russia that y'all want so badly. Disgusting. Hashtag fake left. Hashtag sellouts. Hashtag wannabe MSNBC. Hashtag legalize weed.
All right, let's talk briefly about healthcare before we pivot, like the Republicans are, to tax cuts. Right now, contrary to, apparently there's something going around that I think came from Reddit, but I've seen it on Twitter, where John McCain is a hero because he secretly was able to make it impossible for them to not bring it up again. Understand what happened the other night when John McCain sank the bill. He was voting on an amendment. What Mitch McConnell did is He only presented amendments that were basically stalking horse for the underlying bill. And the reason why he did that is because he needed to keep the reconciliation bill alive. Now, that's the 2017 reconciliation bill. You only get one a year, one a fiscal year. There's a 2018 that goes live in September, but you can keep the 17, you can push that even past September 30th. Gets a little bit complicated, but apparently it's doable. But you cannot start on the 2018 and go back to 2017. As soon as you bring up the 2018 reconciliation bill, which they want to use for tax reform, the 2017 dies. So it appears like, at the very least, they've shelved it, but they haven't put it away. It could come back. Lindsey Graham has his little plan to basically block grant everything.
Keep the taxes, block the grants. Let's get this done. Come on, y'all. We're all going to be melted down. We have this giant nuclear conflict with North Korea that I'm fixing to start, so might as well take away their health care.
Well, that's going to be...
Come on, y'all, let's do it.
That's his jobs program for North Carolina. Wow. If there's no Koreas and no Japan and parts of Asia completely
we'll
wiped
melt
out.
all those yellow bastards down and genetically modify some rice patties for us. And then we can cut Medicaid.
All right.
I'm a moderate.
So understand, Donald Trump has from the beginning been talking about we should just let Obamacare fall and then they'll have to negotiate. Starting really under the Obama administration, when the Congress voted to defund the risk corridors for insurers, which is basically an insurer says, okay, I'm going to go into this market. I'm going to offer a product on the exchange. I don't really know who's going to buy it. And if I don't know who's going to buy it, I don't have any actuarial tables that tell me how much I'm going to pay out versus the amount that I'm going to take in. And so I can't manage my business model. Now, frankly, this is why the insurance industry was going to die anyways. And why, for a long time, Joe Lieberman, I believe, was supportive of a buy-in at age 55 or Medicare for 55 and older, because the business model of health insurance generally doesn't work unless you keep it afloat with government subsidies. So while the Republican plans don't even constitute any plans, the Democratic plan that we have, the worst part of it is just the subsidies of private insurance. Expansion of Medicaid is good. The patient protections and actually making sure the product is good. But the risk corridor has basically allowed the insurance companies to go into the markets blind, and the government basically saying, we're going to backstop you. If your losses exceed an extra, this amount, we're going to pay you. We're going to subsidize you. Almost like you would farmers, right? You put your crops out there. If the shit hits the fan, we got you covered. Congress defunded that. There are lawsuits right now that have already been ongoing trying to sue the government into paying for those risk corridors. But what else you've seen is that in predominantly the Republican-controlled states, they have made it much harder for the insurance companies in these individual markets, the risk corridors being the primary thing. The instability that has been created by Donald Trump has basically said to insurance companies, like, we don't even know now if we're going to get our subsidies, the CSRs, the cost sharing reduction, which are basically, again, these are subsidies paid directly to insurance companies on behalf of people living between 133% and 400% of poverty, who go into the exchanges and get discounts, essentially tax reductions, on their insurance. And insurance companies don't know if that's going to exist, so they raise their insurance rates. Here is Chris Cuomo talking to Mick Mulvaney about any attempts to stabilize the insurance markets.
think the president will enable, to the extent that he has control, the CSR payments to those markets so they stay stabilized?
I think we've said from the very beginning, the time that he got into office, that we look at these on a month-by-month basis, and that position has not changed.
But aren't you then holding those payments hostage and encouraging the insurers to do exactly what they're doing, which is to say we're going to have to raise premiums because of the uncertainty, the exact same uncertainty that you say is the problem?
Chris, we're having the exact same conversation we had 30 seconds ago.
Yeah, because I feel like you're dancing
ago.
around the reality that you need those payments in order to stabilize the markets, and if you're holding them hostage, you're essentially putting people
stop
at risk.
for a second. Stop for a second. These payments have been there for years.
Right.
The markets are not stable. You are making the assumption that if we make the payments, the market. No, stop for a second.
You asked me, not unstable.
You asked me the question.
Let
Let me finish the answer.
All markets are not unstable.
You asked me the question, let me finish the answer. You are assuming that with these CSR payments, the markets will stay stable. That is a false assumption. That's not a fair question.
More stable than otherwise. Well, the insurers are saying we're going to have to raise premiums if you don't give them to us. What do you call it?
More stable is replacing this with something that actually works. That is more stable.
And the
that is
CBO
goal
said
of
that every one of your suggestions made it worse. Every single one, the CBO said. And your reaction to that was to try to dismantle the CBO.
There you go. Wow, you got to hand it to Chris Cuomo. Mick Mulvaney, this guy, I got to say, not the A-team. Not the A-team. Now, understand the dynamic here. They say they're going to do this month to month. Go in to your boss's office, or you, if you're a boss, go to your employees and say, guess what we're going to do? I'm going to let you know at the end of the month if I'm going to pay you. I've been paying you all this time, so
I'm going to do it month to month, do you see?
Exactly. Honestly.
Matt all of a sudden will lose his cool. Wait a second. I have a giant bond shipment coming in at the end of the month.
I'm not saying that people don't do that. Now, a lot of people work that way. But the bottom line is that does not make you feel like, hey, now's the time for me to buy a new house. Or I think I'm
make
going
some
to
long-term plans.
I think I'm going to buy that couch. No.
I make long-term plans based off of flimsy financial chicanery all the time.
So there you go. I mean, the bottom line is they know just by threatening these payments, it forces insurance companies to raise their rates as a way of protecting themselves, because insurance companies do not sell insurance for a month at a time. So they know that's what this is doing in an attempt to squeeze people. They are also, in an attempt to destabilize these markets, they are not putting the money into promoting the open enrollment period, where people are supposed to sign up. You want to expand the risk pool. The more people who buy insurance, the cheaper the insurance becomes, because you're expanding the risk pool. They are also getting rid of the navigators and the centers where people would figure out how to buy insurance. That's also gone. They are explicitly, Obama was a little bit implicit, but explicitly not enforcing the mandate, encouraging people who feel they don't need health insurance to not buy it, and therefore making the risk pools filled with people who are more convinced they need it and making insurance more expensive. And then there's a whole series of waivers that they could be issuing to probably Republican states without the same sort of requirements that they've had in the past. Now, the only good news today is that in the lawsuit, the Republicans had been suing Obama to stop the CSR payments, these subsidies. And apparently the judge in the D.C. Circuit, or the judges, I should say, D.C. Circuit, remember, this is the one where the nuking the filibuster made it possible to fill these. Republicans wanted to actually shrink the size of this court so they could have a majority while they were blocking all of Obama's nominees. It's a hugely important court. The D.C. Circuit decided, I guess this was last night, to grant New York Attorney General Eric Schneiderman's motion to intervene in House versus Price, which used to be, I think, House versus Bacillus, in defense of the Affordable Care Act's cost-sharing reduction subsidies. So now the White House can't just say, hey, we're no longer defending ourselves against this suit. Now there's another party there. This is huge. So that's essentially what the Republican plan is going to be, to continue to destabilize these markets. The problem is that they're going to own it. I think that ship has sailed. They've just spent, this has been just too high profile where people wouldn't understand that dynamic. I mean, we just saw Chris Cuomo sending Mulvaney back to the shed, to the woodshed, in about the most succinct 180 seconds I think I've ever heard.
I don't think what I like about Mulvaney is he always has this sort of confused, stupid person's look on his face. So he never understood. He does not understand when he's been sent to the shed. He probably got off that. I was like, I set Cuomo straight, liberal CNN, fake news.
The experience that I have always had when I have actually debated right wingers is that they're so unused to actually having a debate on the merits of the whatever they're talking about, that they're just completely blindsided when somebody has a response for what they're saying. Like they're genuinely, I mean, you know, it's almost like there's a third option between that evil and dumb thing, which is like devil. Or
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's like dumb devil.
Holy
evil.
cow. Wow. Yeah. There you go.
Mick Mulvaney looks like an incredibly stupid, evil person. He looks evil enough to want to actively harm people, cause people harm, but is also obviously genuinely very dumb.
He also looks like he's very jaundiced. He's yellow and sweating and like there's something wrong. Very wrong.
Well, I think that's sometimes what's on the inside starts to ooze out. Now, all right, lastly, I think yesterday, did we mention, I don't know if we mentioned this. Yesterday, Senate Democrats sent a letter. It was 2 days ago, 2 or 3 days ago. Sent Mitch McConnell a letter offering to work with the Republicans on bipartisan tax reform, but only if it does not cut taxes for the wealthy, add to the federal deficit, or allow Republicans to enact legislation on their own. In other words, done reconciliation.
So what's the point?
So, well, the offer was an offer that the Republicans, of course, were going to reject. The problem is that it was only signed by 45 Democratic lawmakers. And those Democrats who did not sign it were, I think it was Joe Donnelly from Indiana, Joe Manchin from West Virginia, and Heidi Heitkamp of North Dakota.
Thanks,
Good job, Matt. And I want you to listen to Mitch McConnell today, or yesterday, admitting that health care, saying a couple of things. One, they're going to pass this, right? Through, they're talking about tax reform, saying there is no stomach amongst the Republican caucus to getting rid of the filibuster, saying the problem was Republicans when it came to health care. And then I think at the end here, he has an allusion to maybe how they're going to do tax so-called reform.
What about Saturday night we got a series of tweets from the president about Senate procedure. He talked about reconciliation. He talked about lowering the threshold here. You have been adamant and asked before that you don't think that there's the wherewithal on both sides of the aisle to lower the bar for legislative filibusters. What did you make of the president kind of directing floor traffic from 1600 Pennsylvania this weekend when he was saying you ought to do things this way, you ought to do things this way, and changing the Senate rules?
Well, I mean, it's pretty obvious that our problem with health care was not the Democrats. We didn't have 50 Republicans. There are not the votes in the Senate, as I've said repeatedly to the President and to all of you, to change the rules of the Senate. There are not enough. It would require 50 or 51 Republicans to agree to do that. The votes are simply not there. But the good news is the top two priorities of the president don't require anything more than a simple majority: tax reform and health care. And there's an opportunity. We're continuing to score some of the options on health care that Senator Portman, Senator Cruz, Senator Graham, Senator Cassidy wanted to take a look at. The reconciliation vehicle for health care has not yet expired, so there's still an opportunity to do that. So I think I've just told you what I've told the president on several occasions.
But is that going on?
And I think, where was it he said, McConnell also, I think, went on to say there or another place that he anticipates they may have some Democrats when it comes to getting tax reform passed. And, in fact, here it is. Kentucky Republican Mitch McConnell cited Tuesday a letter from 45 Democratic senators urging Republicans not to use reconciliation and vowing to oppose a tax plan that adds to the deficit or cuts the annual bill of the richest 1% taxpayers. He said, I don't think this is going to be 1986 when you had bipartisan effort to scrub the code. I remember it well. I was drinking heavily and bringing Congressman Donnelly from Quincy, Massachusetts, his case of Busch beer and Merit cigarettes that he used to indulge in every day. He goes on to say Democratic senators who did not sign the letter may be open to pro-growth tax reform. And that, of course, is a euphemism for trickle-down economics, which, of course, is a euphemism for cutting taxes for the rich and screwing everyone else. So use the double arm's length euphemism. But that letter is indicative of the problem that they might have with tax cuts in terms of the Democrats. You were able to hold the caucus for health care. I don't know if that's going to happen when it comes to tax cuts. But we got a lot more to talk about in the fun half, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, a lot more news today, but those are the big stories.
And a personal statement.
And oh yeah, we may get to that.
My social life is
we may have to get it.
deteriorating.
We may have to get it to get to that tomorrow.
Because
We'll
of
see.
Trump and liberal intolerance. Totally unfair.
Gonna have to get the DOJ to sue, folks. It is your membership that makes this show possible. Say this every day. It starts to sound rote, but it is the truth. I think a lot of people are hitting some financial issues at the moment on our membership, and we always work out deals with people if they have to cancel. But if you are one of those people who are fortunate enough to not have that situation, head over to jointhemajorityreport.com, jointhemajorityreport.com, become a member. You support the fun half, the free half of this show, and then we give you some bonus content every day. Interviews with Naomi Klein, a rundown of sort of the more arcane and boring stuff you could ever imagine, like today. It's not boring. Not boring. Not that boring. Doing interviews. We're going to be taking some days off at the end of August. Interesting interviews of historians and theorists and other things, all that and more. So support the program by going to jointhemajorityreport.com. Also, you can also support the program by buying your coffee from justcoffee.coop. It's a fair trade co-op. So everybody gets paid a fair share. The coffee is delicious. You can get the Majority Report blend, and you get 10% off, free shipping as well. Use the coupon code MAJORITY. JustCoffee.coop, C-O-O-P. And if you buy your crap from Amazon or Jet.com, head over to MajorityReportKickback.com. Click on the link. Always buy your stuff through that link. We get a kickback. That's why we call it MajorityReportKickback.com. Going to take a quick break. 646-257-3920. Oh, but wait a second. We have a new entry. These things flow. They just flow like a new entry in the genre of fun half. This one is more of a a hip hop. I guess this is sort of match the Paul Ryan Build the Wall thing, right? That's where it's all going apparently. Like more hip hop and youth oriented.
EDM.
Yeah.
Youth oriented EDM. That's my favorite type of music.
Yeah. This is apparently what the kids are doing today. Kids were doing it too back when I was a kid, but they're still apparently doing some of that, which is good to hear. Youth is eternal, folks. Oh my God. Just not within one person. All right, here is the latest entry into the Sam Seder / Fun Half mix. Here we go. Seder. Seder. Sam Seder. All right, let me just... Fun Half. Sam Seder. Fun Half. Seder. I don't know. There it is. We're going to have to probably lower that in the podcast so we don't break anybody's ears. All right, heading to the Fun Half, 646-257-3920. See you in there.
Think of all the times she said no, 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 no. Like to speak my mind. She said no, 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 no. And I know her time's not free. She didn't waste none on me. Situation sad. She said no, 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 no. Things are looking bad. She said no, 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 no. And if it was up to me, I'd tell her a thing or three. Every time I see her look my way, I don't know, girl, what to say. Situation sad. She said no, 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 no. Things are looking bad. She said no, 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 no. And if it was up to me, I'd tell her a thing or three. No, no, no.
All right, folks, we are back. Sam Seder, Fun Half.
Let me just.
Fun
Let me just. So good.
All right, let's go right to the phones. You're calling from a 509 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Left is best, MFers.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
This is Ronald Reagan.
Hello, Ronald Reagan. How are you?
Good. I wanted to talk about the RAISE Act. Have you seen this? Trump just announced with Tom Cotton and some other asshole that they're planning on, they have a proposed law. It's called the RAISE Act, R-A-I-S-E, which is designed to cut legal immigration in half. And Trump gave a little speech that he had to read. It was fun watching him try and read. But basically, they're saying that this is going to make it so we have a more skills-based immigration system. And what that means is essentially ending family immigration, family-based immigration, where you can, like, petition for family members to come here. And one of the things that they're saying is that, immigrants are coming and taking up public resources and money, but that's not the case. Whenever you bring a family member here, you file a petition for them to come to the United States to immigrate. You have to also file a literal contract with the government saying that if they ever need public means-tested benefits, that you will cover the cost of those things. And it's an enforceable contract. It is enforced by the government. And if the petitioner doesn't earn enough money, you have to go find a co-sponsor. So every family immigrant in the United States has somebody who's signed essentially a contract. And you have to prove your income as the sponsor. So if I don't earn very much money and I want to bring, my wife here or something like that, my wife, then I have to find somebody who does earn enough money, and the government is very exhaustive in what they ask for. You have to submit 3 years of tax returns and proof of your income.
That's more than a mortgage. That's more than a mortgage.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So there's not a family-based immigrant in the United States who's not essentially subjected to those restrictions already. And in fact, the public charge ground of inadmissibility has been around for like over 100 years. Like, this isn't anything new. And it's also just not true that these people, typically are coming to take American jobs. I live in a really agricultural area, and people are sorting apples for 10 hours a day on a conveyor belt, or pruning or picking. And you can ask any farmer in the country, there's just not white people doing these jobs. They're not being stolen from people. And then, I know in other places they work in, the service industry and cleaning and cooking and doing other things like that. So and it also, to me, undermines what we've been hearing for a long time, which is that, well, I'm okay with legal immigration.
Right.
It's the illegal immigration I have a problem with. Well, no, they also don't like legal immigration. They're trying to slash it in half. And this is from the party of family values, right? That they can. Well, I don't even know.
You missed the first part.
Saying that anymore.
White family values. That's
right.
And you missed the part before that, which is wealthy white family values.
It's look, this is all part of a piece, right? There is no, and I don't think it's a coincidence that we're hearing all of this, being dumped now. I think this is part of the pivot, the more efficient white nationalist administration that his voters were promised. And this is where it starts getting really, really difficult, I think, because you're going to start to have people like Manchin and Heidi Heitkamp, and in the case of tax reform, Donnelly, where it's going to be unclear as to whether or not the Democratic caucus is going to be able to stop stuff like this, right? This is a piece of legislation that theoretically would need 60 votes if they can maintain a filibuster, and so hopefully it will be. This will be a big test. It'll be a big test.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Family-based immigration is already broken. Like, if you're from Mexico and you petition for a sibling, it'll take 30 years for the visa to come current because the wait lines are so long. And so the idea that they would, there are people who've been waiting for a really long time for visas, and I don't know what they plan to do with those people. But Yeah, it's crazy. I guess the main takeaway for you and the listeners would just be to try and have people educate themselves, because we're going to be engaged in these arguments again that, I've never engaged anybody on this issue on the other side of the issue who has any idea what they're talking about, but they're totally confident in what they're saying. And I guess that's true with most things these days, but it's especially true, I think, in this particular area. So anyhow, thanks for taking my call.
All right. Well, hey, whoa. I understand you were in the New Yorker magazine. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Do you want to just play that off? Like, what's the deal?
Well, it wasn't so much about me. I was quoted, they did a story about the mothers being detained and deported by Trump, and one of my clients was featured in that story. So we got her out of detention. She's got her case reopened. This is a woman who has a removal order from, I think, 1990 when she was 2 years old, and she never knew about it. And I think it was in February or March, ICE came and arrested her and put her in detention, and they were all set to deport her based on this thing that happened pre-memory. So anyhow, we got the case reopened, and I think she's on pretty solid ground now.
She sounds dangerous.
But she's super dangerous. That was the first case for me where I realized, things are definitely different, because under Obama, they might have come and talked to her and said, hey, look, you got to sort this out. But with her, she called me on a Sunday on my cell phone, and she was in custody, and they were deciding whether or not to detain her or not. And I said, tell the officers to call me. This is my cell phone. They can call me right now. I didn't know about the removal order either because it was so old, and how was I supposed to know about that if she didn't even know? And I said, have them call me. We'll work something out. And they detained her. And the very next day, there was a big story in the paper that ICE had undergone a sweeping raid and arrested 85 or however many criminal aliens in the Portland area. And it was clear that they were reluctant to let her go because they were trying to pad their stats for this press release, which they, of course, sent out the next day. And so that's the kind of, crap that's going on, unfortunately. But yeah, there was a piece there, and I got quoted briefly. But good. It's a good story.
Well, Ronald Reagan, we're going to cut this piece and put it on YouTube so that people can pass it around, so that when this lie, and it's undoubtedly going to happen as they promote this RAISE Act, as people perpetuate this lie that somehow, family members are sucking the lifeblood out of us. People can pass this around, and we'll put that up on YouTube in the next day or so. Ronald Reagan, as always, thanks so much.
Take care.
Bye. It's always nice to have an immigration expert in the audience at a time when the white nationalists are, white power folks are in ascendance.
Such a quintessential issue, though, where they don't care.
Let's get to something fun. Like the president lying to Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
Lesson about life.
You'll recall the speech that President Trump gave to Boy Scouts where he talked about how
I was at a tremendous orgy in 1984.
A huge party. There was a lot of nakeds around. And, of course, there was a loser showed up whose whole life was devastated because they went too far. But the bottom line is, I'm here, and
this guy
let's
had
all
no
boo
money, and
Barack
it was
Obama.
Sad.
Barack
the girls
Obama never came here.
Wouldn't touch him. But, Barack Obama was invited to the orgies
Now,
to begin with.
There's two things to know in the drop back, in the background of this. One, the head or the president, I guess, or maybe board of directors, I'm not sure what, of the Boy Scouts of America, just coincidentally, also happens to be the chair, I think it is, of AT&T. And wouldn't you know it, there's a huge multi-billion-dollar merger that AT&T and Time Warner are interested in. So if you're that guy, what can you do? I'm going to give the president a little opportunity to seem wholesome and like apple pie. And then, of course, the Boy Scouts of America had to put out an apology for what Donald Trump did there. But here is Aaron Burnett reporting that either the Boy Scouts or Donald Trump was a liar.
Back against the president tonight in a claim he made to the Wall Street Journal. According to a transcript of an interview with the Journal and obtained tonight by Politico, the president denies there is any mixed reaction to the controversial Boy Scout speech that he gave. And the president in the interview said, quote, they loved it. There was some laughter in the exchange. He said it was no mix. That was a standing ovation. And I got a call from the head of the Boy Scouts saying it was the greatest speech that was ever made to them. And they were very thankful. So there was no mix. Okay, well, it appears someone is not being fully honest here because a Boy Scouts official, of course, apologized to the scouting community for the political rhetoric in Trump's speech. And moments ago, the Boy Scouts told out front, issuing this to our show, saying the chief scout executive's message to the scouting community speaks for itself. They are sticking with their criticism of the political rhetoric in the speech.
Oh, those liars.
Someone's lying. Someone's lying here.
Someone's being dishonest.
Lying Boy Scout.
Wonder who
Lying
that
Boy
is.
Scout. Lying Boy Scouts. That's what I call them.
Lying
I call them the Lion Scouts.
Getting your lie badge.
By the way, I thought the way that they treated gay scout leaders was disgraceful. Totally unfair. I'm going to get on Twitter now and ban
Did you
transgender people
know
from restaurants.
the Boy Scouts killed Kennedy? It's true.
It's true.
It's true.
The head
They
of the
killed
Boy
Kennedy.
Scouts killed Kennedy.
Lion
The whole thing is
Scouts.
ridiculous.
Lion
That's what I
Scouts.
heard.
Moving on. This, folks.
Lion Boy Scouts.
Listen, a lot of people on the left are feeling a little apocalyptic, right? Like it's all going to come to an end. And as a public service for those of you who are concerned that we're nearing the end times, is this clip from televangelist Jim Baker, who's going to share the divine inspiration. God himself, and I do mean himself, said to Jim Baker, find some buckets, put some food in it, and I'm going to make you rich again. Here's Jim Baker.
The devil does not want this show. They don't want us talking about angels. God woke me up, and I felt the presence of God like I'd never felt. And he said, Jim, I want you to start with, do more food. Build a new type of food. And so on there, it calls right there.
Now pause it
Right
for 1
there.
second. I got to say, the other night, Nikki did the same thing to me. She woke me up in the middle of the night. But I was so messed up on Ambien. And so I started to just put food in bowls. I didn't get the message. They have to be sealable buckets. But here he is. And just for you at home, he is standing in front of these, what appear to me to be 5-gallon buckets, right? These are basically 5-gallon buckets.
About 30 of them.
Yeah, about 30 of them. They're sealable ones. And they've got a, well, I'm going to.
They look like kitty litter.
The name of the food is Staying Alive. Continue.
Build a new type of food. And so on there, it calls right there. Right there. See, Staying Alive. And this is the first time in history there's ever been a 30-year shelf life food.
Oh my God,
this
that's
is what
probably
God
delicious.
is saying to me. And we'll find out. You'll find out if I hear from God or not. Because one of these days, we're in the last days. And the years I spent in prison, God showed me the revelation, and I'm telling you, almost all of it is already fit. We're going to see the ends, the end of time.
Pause it for 1 second. I just want to go just catch up where we are here. Incidentally, 32 buckets for only $1,500. You can get 5 buckets for $300, or you can do a Staying Alive monthly club, which apparently keeps you alive monthly, of course, until the apocalypse. And that's only $70 a month.
Glenn Beck he doesn't let you buy in smaller portions like this. You have to buy a bigger $1,000 set.
Yeah, this gives you a lot of flexibility because, you know, when you're in prison, one of the things you learn about when you're doing this stuff is you want to give different price points for your fraud. And I like the part where he says, like, and, you know, we're going to find out. So it will really be a drag. 25 years out, the apocalypse comes, you open up the bucket, it's like, God damn, Jim Baker. It's moldy. Son of a... All right, continue. Because it gets better.
You're just like eating like pancakes. I like that though. It's like pancakes. Like the whole world is literally melting.
30,
you know what?
30 years of pancakes.
30 years
Flour,
of pancakes.
Flour. It's going to be dry. The food's going to be a little bit dry. God.
All of it is already fit. We're going to see the ends, the end of time, and that's where we are right now.
Thank gosh.
Come on, sing this just a little bit of.
All right, band.
Okay.
Oh, let's see a hymn if there's a hymn.
Come on, let's get excited now.
All right.
You know you like it. You know you're having fun.
This actually makes me really embarrassed to watch.
Some of you stand up. Come on.
Come on, folks.
A few of you, not all.
I'm staying alive, staying alive.
Oh.
I'm staying alive, staying alive. I'm staying alive, staying alive.
It's true. This is not fake.
I'm staying alive. I'm staying alive. I'm staying
Wait, they're going to talk about the food specifically.
I'm staying alive. I got my food, and I'm staying alive.
Oh no! You know, we were watching this, and I was saying to Matt, like, "Hey, Matt, get Staying Alive, the song, and we'll put it in there. Whatever they start to sing here, we'll
One
actually
step ahead of you.
superimpose it." And they just broke out and stayed because you know you're having fun. We're talking about end times. Hey, this is the food that you're going to need in the bunker. Let's make it happy. Come on, Staying Alive. $1,500, folks. I wonder how much it's plus shipping too. That's the thing where they get you.
That's gonna hurt, actually. You got 30 buckets coming.
32 5-gallon buckets coming in the mail. Oh God, what have you ordered now? That's gonna come in its own truck. Jeez. Well, there you go, folks. So we should be selling something like that here. I can't believe
it seems like a lucrative business.
It feels
Staying
like
alive. Because they said to put all the knishes into buckets, and the buckets will stay, and there'll be nosh.
That's what I was going to say.
Everything for you, and
it would be
and
keeping your nosh.
And if you
keeping your nosh,
if you do it now, there'll be a special
I was in
chocolate edible dreidel.
Well,
which
I
you'll
was in
want
prison.
during the end times.
I remember people telling me always have 3 different price points for your fraud because
it's behavioral economics, because there's the one you don't want them to buy. Then there's the one that makes no sense. And then you put the third one in to really get those goddamn schnooks. So come here, get my nosh bucket. Hello?
Hey, folks.
Jimmy Dore's food doesn't last.
You know.
He's a goddamn liar. Hello?
Folks, you know, when it comes to doing what we do every day, which is analyzing politics and, of course, personnel from the Trump administration, what's really important is accuracy and, of course, timing. Here is, just days ago, Boris Epstein the former Trump advisor, campaign official, who is now at Sinclair Broadcast Group, which, of course, Sinclair made a deal for good campaign coverage of the Trump administration, and just coincidentally ended up getting a huge waiver on their FCC license to have 70-80% clearance across the country. Now, for their local television, Boris Epshteyn is on 80% of the country. I think Boris Epshteyn has greater clearance than MSNBC does across the country. And here he is, just days before, unfortunately for him, Anthony Scaramucci was, well, screwed the poochie. Here it is.
Changes are afoot in the White House Communications Department. It may be hard to keep track of who's in, who's out, and more importantly, what this means for the American people. Let's break it down. The president wanted to bring in a fresh perspective to help manage and communicate the White House's message. The reins over communications are now totally in the hands of Anthony Scaramucci, the new communications director. He's going to report directly to the president. Sarah Huckabee Sanders has been promoted to press secretary after having been the principal deputy. I know Anthony personally. He's a good friend. He's unquestionably passionate and direct. That's been pretty obvious. He also has a high level of respect for media, having been a part of it himself. The reason his appointment matters is that there's going to be a new approach to dealing with the media from the White House. Anthony has already made two key promises. First, cameras are on for the daily press briefing. Get ready to see more of those pointed exchanges between the White House and the press. Second, the White House comm shop will now enable the president to speak directly to you through all mediums, even more than in the past. This will allow for the president's words to cut through any spin or interpretation and go right to the people. The bottom line is this. There's not always agreement between the White House and those covering them. That is impossible. What these changes do signal, however, is there will now be a better working relationship between the White House and the press. This will hopefully result in us getting more thorough and real information on the issues that actually matter to our daily lives, such as jobs, healthcare, and taxes.
Don't piss down my back and tell me it's raining.
So he was, in addition to sort of being slightly premature on talking about Scaramucci changing things, he also was basically implicitly blaming Sean Spicer and Reince Priebus, I guess, for, well, I guess not Reince Priebus, he didn't know at that point, for all the disinformation that comes out about the Trump administration.
It's a great fucking commentary. Wait, hold on one fucking... I'm fired? Fuck.
Such
my fucking wrong.
He's such a instantly trustworthy message deliverer.
Boris Epshteyn.
Hold on to 1 second. I need to finish commentary quick because I have conference call with human trafficking ring that I also manage out of Moldova. It's Reince Priebus, or as I call him, Rinse Penis. This is joke me and Moochie do. Oh, he fire? Okay, whatever. Fuck it. It's Sinclair.
Who's next?
It doesn't matter.
Who's next?
John Kelly is going to bring strong new. Oh, he fired too. Okay.
Well, that was the beauty, actually. I mean,
Kid Rock is going to
roll,
really enhance personnel in the White House.
You could roll the first 30 seconds of that.
Yes.
For the next person.
Just use same beginning package, and then I'll come in with new transparency, blah, blah, blah,
over
bullshit,
my
bullshit,
saying
bullshit,
name.
bullshit,
B-roll over my saying name. Just
Yes.
use picture, I say name. We don't need to shoot it again.
We have B-roll. Hi, Mr. President, you won't get involved with new cargo container of women come from Ukraine?
Going to the phones, calling from an 847 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling for? 847.
Hey, it's Josh from Chicago.
Hello.
I'm really sorry that,
Hello, Josh.
really,
How are you doing?
I'm really sorry, Right Wing Mandela, that your social life is really bad right now.
Oh, you haven't heard
Really?
the, you haven't heard the
Is
least of
your
it.
mother? Oh, yes. Well, that's difficult, but I will say that I have a certain spring in my step after visiting your mom, Josh.
I'm sure you
I would
do.
imagine she does as well. She likes it every time, all the time. Anyways, make your point, young Joshua. Something important about politics, I'm sure.
First of all, Kelly, I Song to Song is a terrible film.
What?
Song to Song is a terrible movie.
Do you dislike all of his films?
Oh, I love Terrence Malick. But, wait, did you like Knight of Cups?
I don't.
This would explain...
have not seen that.
Josh, your mother and I are very concerned.
Slightly better. Slightly better than Knight of Cups, but still, it's just 2 hours of people staring out into grass.
Hey, Josh, go watch a Terrence Malick film. I'm going to visit your mom tonight.
I will.
Okay, well, I'm sorry to hear that, but you're actually also wrong. Thanks.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Well, I like the good Terrence Malick
Good one,
Terrence
Josh.
Malick movies. I like the ones where there's less staring off into grass.
Another good one. All right, so what's on your mind, Josh?
There's actually one that's mostly staring off into grass. I can't remember what it's called.
That's the
To the Wonder?
No, that's
yes, it is To the Wonder. Yeah.
I really like To the Wonder, actually.
This is actually reminding me of what me and
Wow,
your mother
this
did in
is-
Prospect Park last weekend.
This is
in
great.
the grass.
Oh God.
All
Okay.
right, what do you got, Josh?
Anyways, so we're talking. You guys are talking about healthcare, and basically there was a Commonwealth study that came out I think it was like last week or 2 weeks ago. Commonwealth Health Fund.
Yep.
And basically, they ranked. I think it was like 12 world countries, and like they've been doing this for like 10 years now, ranking them in terms of like effectiveness of their healthcare system.
Yep.
And the U.S. came in last in basically every category, including actually quality of care, which is the great right-wing myth to like single-payer healthcare. Is the quality is king in the U.S. Well, not according to this study, but the first two were actually England. England was number one, despite everything that the Conservatives have done to the NHS. It still remains number one in the world. And Australia was number two. And Australia has a Medicare for all, basically, right? Where it's like you go in. I think you pay like $5 or something. But I mean, essentially, I reading Chuck Schumer's arguments. Why can't they just use this in their arguments for like 2018? As we've done the research, single payer is actually the best quality healthcare system. Like studies have shown this. Like, I mean, I know they're reluctant to run on just like single payer alone, but for me, it also is proof that like it has the best quality healthcare. You know, like why can't this be part of the messaging? Like their messaging is so confusing at this point. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I tend to agree. And I think, supposedly what that marginally better deal agenda announcement was about was to trying to sort of focus that message. But yes, I agree with you. I mean, I don't know if single payer healthcare in and of itself is enough to run on. But, and particularly, it's a tough argument, I guess, to make when you don't have the presidency in a 2018, right? I mean, really, the primary reason why we want Democrats to take over in 2018, take one house of the Congress, is to stop the Republican agenda, right? I mean, because you're not going to get anything else passed. Now, I don't think I think there is value in promoting a positive agenda, but when you just think about the obvious thing there, to us is that we all know no matter what the Democrats promise in 2018, the only thing they're going to be able to do is to gum up the works with Trump's agenda. And that to me seems to be going to be their primary rallying cry. But then the other question is like, okay, how do you plan to do it and what do you plan to offer after that? So everything else is sort of second order stuff. 2020 is a different year, obviously, but that's the way I think, that's what I think you can anticipate, and I think that's what they think.
Well, I don't know about you libtards, but I would prefer to have a Japanese-made robot give me a hand job and regrow my retinas, which only happens in American healthcare. But you would prefer to just hand it out like candy to poor, irresponsible people who don't make at least $500,000 a year and have done something stupid and pathetic like have diabetes or cancer or some other loser condition.
Bye, Josh.
Bye, Josh. Tell your mom.
NHS, though.
Tell your mom I say hi. Believe me, I'm helping her immune system.
Let's go some items. Joseph Ballin. Today, Donald Trump signs H.R. 3364, imposing sanctions on Russia, Iran, North Korea. I don't need to read the rest of your statement. I know I'm responsible for it. Pokemon.
Yeah, we pop champagne.
Fourth day attempt to get you guys to actually read my IM. I've been burning through the archives. Can we get some Comrade Louis Gohmert back up on this mofo? Where is he? Louis Gohmert. Really hear from him. We got to keep an eye out for him more. Your town is next. I'm seeing a strangely angry dismissiveness from far leftists about the Russia investigation. A lot of Chapo wannabes treated as being akin to 9/11 trutherism. And all the evidence is just imaginary. Obviously, there's no evidence of vote hacking, but we now plainly see how Russia influenced the campaign. But I think the far left fears that if there's really solid proof of collusion between Russia and Trump and it invalidates his election, gives the DNC the proof that Hillary didn't lose fair and square, which means the party has no motivation to be moved further to the left. I mean, look, the Russia stuff, to deny that there's nothing there involving Russia at this point means that you're actively denying the fact that Trump's lawyers have repeatedly publicly lied about his role in just, Donald Jr.'s lie about his meeting, that they all lied about the existence of that meeting, that there's nothing there in terms of financial relationships between Trump Inc. I mean, there's just, I don't know if there was collusion, and I've said from day one, like, I don't see why they needed to. They clearly, there is 100% evidence of their desire to collude, right? It's there in Donald Trump's email.
Love it.
Love it. I love it. I'll be there. In fact, I'm going to bring the whole campaign apparatus with me. Like, that's 100% proof of their desire.
I think I should leave.
But here's the other problem with the other part of that, which is also really annoying, is that, look, there is no doubt, and I have been saying, and I don't need to reiterate where I've been on this in terms of what the Democrats are offering, but there's no doubt that Hillary Clinton came in with an unparalleled amount of baggage, that the campaign made some very boneheaded strategic and tactical mistakes. And you're talking about 70,000 votes. It's hard to believe that there aren't other candidates, and not just Bernie, for that matter. Biden, maybe Warren.
Biden would have won very easily.
I mean, I'm not convinced that
Bernie would have won. Warren would have had a very good chance.
I mean,
Martin O'Malley, ironically,
honestly,
probably would have won.
I think there's a lot of people who would have run, and it was not. Now, would having an ideology create a bigger win? An ideology that speaks to issues and not just an ideology, but actually a practice? Yeah, possibly. But the Russia stuff is now like, it's just so ridiculous. And which is not to say there aren't excesses. And which is not to say that, like, some of the, like, I will say this qualified way, and maybe I'll talk about it tomorrow once I find out. But there was a screen grab of a tweet by Neera Tanden saying that, like, all this, I wonder what it's about, all this anti-Cory Booker, anti-Kamala Harris stuff. And what she's insinuating is obvious. But it's really, that stuff, that's reprehensible. I mean, that's really reprehensible. I mean, I don't follow her tweets. It just so happens that Corey Robin had retweeted it.
You gotta follow. You should follow more people like that because you
God,
gotta tune into. But I'm saying you're. Well, I get it, but you're very familiar with the problem of the dumb left. But the alt center is still a big deal and relentlessly stupid.
Well, I mean, that was not even stupid. I mean,
No,
nobody's
it's cynical. I mean,
it's really super cynical.
Neera Tanden and I follow each other, and I mean, she's smart, and that in some ways makes when she does moves like that.
I found that really
very
Michigan man, what is Libertarian Gandhi's perspective on Jeff Sessions and the DOJ's brave stance fighting for the innocent white youth under siege by affirmative action program?
Just as the stone in a river ripple across all currents, so political correctness is ruining America. White children should be able to learn. And you do know at some colleges you can't even pretend to be Indian or something like that as Halloween costume. And that means democracy is over. I was watching special with David Rubin. Very smart.
Meow Wowzer. Hey, MR crew, longtime listeners, love the show. My husband and I watched the new Wonder Woman movie. Noticed Steve Mnuchin's name in the credits as an executive producer. Sure enough, he's been producing movies since 2014. That's the way he gets to meet actresses. Dissident Peasant. Sam, please help me get the word out. At the last meeting, the League of Extraordinarily Progressive Southern Gentlemen, I accidentally exchanged bags with someone. Mine was the Maoist themed, but this one is covered in Che Guevara quotes. Thanks. Solidarity forever. Attorney Andrew. Came out a year ago, but people should read Gia Tolentino's piece in Jezebel entitled All the Greedy Young Abigail Fishers and Me. Tolentino discusses teaching people like Abigail Fisher how to get into college, and when she said people don't, they turn around and blame minorities. Sent this yesterday, but holy shit, Southern Iranian Lindsey Graham had me crying and laughing in the middle of 7-Eleven. I want people to know that when DSA hit 25K members Monday night, CIA shill Dave Weigel was one of the first people to praise them. Jordan Chariton also praised them, but he did by attending at DSA, which is not the Twitter account of the Dem Socialists, but is rather some dude named Russ Desai, whose name Twitter bio states not the Democratic Socialists of America. That's funny. Yeah, well, you know where Weigel does that? It's pretty obvious.
They've compromised organizations
DSA
like that
is a
for
CIA
decades.
front too.
Yeah.
No, that's the way he corkscrews himself into the middle of it. He's a provocateur.
He's an agent fucking provocateur, and I'm going to sue him for that.
He's so clever. Won't say smear.
Oh, I chewed on that idea, did I? Well, very cleverly played, you motherfucking CIA asset. I voted for the only candidate with the Green New Deal.
As I look out at the masses who have asked Dave Weigel to respond. Tell us why he's just delivering DNC talking points and he never does.
Not a single time. Seth Rich was still the WikiLeaks source, and people are getting thrown under the bus for wanting to have a common sense anti-deep state alliance with Mike Cernovich.
I'll
now,
say
don't get
to
me
you
wrong, I disagree.
3 words. Kim.com.
Kim.com. I mean, at a certain point, you gotta have integrity. H.A. Goodman says that Jill Stein's going to be president in 2019 through an extraordinary constitutional mechanism. But Sam never interviewed him. No plans for Michael's new show. Why? Because the MSNBC shield.
Speaking of MSNBC, I have to say that, like, you know, the number of Republicans who show up on MSNBC now, who these never Trumpers, and this is basically just, and I've said this for a long time as well, 2 different corporations in the same industry pretending to knock the product, but in fact they're really just knocking the brand. And the easiest way to do that is to take offense at process things. Here is MSNBC's Joe Scarborough, who, you recall, even after the cycling through, it really took just Donald Trump making fun of Joe Scarborough's fiancée. Are they engaged? Fiance, before there was like weeks of consistent criticism of Trump. But now this is it. What's the issue with another general coming into the White House, a guy who oversaw the DHS's crackdown on moms and family members?
I'm sure that's not the problem.
And, well, I mean, he's got some hard-hitting stuff. Look at this.
That Steve Schmidt gave a very impassioned plea as to why daughters don't work alongside generals.
Pause it. That's right. Ivanka Trump tweeted out, apparently, I'm looking forward to working alongside White House Chief of Staff. And understand, he's not a general.
Wow, Joe
anymore.
Scarborough
He's a
really
former general.
zeroing in on the
Here we go.
Less than
roll it back.
Less than irrelevant.
Right. The working alongside. Go ahead.
You have a very impassioned plea as to why daughters don't work alongside generals that have given their entire life in service of this country just because they're daughters. And I thought it was interesting. You got attacked yesterday, and it was like in the press. It was like it was very sexist. It was like a cat fight.
Well,
because you said it, but when the men said it, that didn't rate a mention. But you state something that we all say about
Actually,
White
I was
House
talking
policy.
about Jared and Ivanka.
Yeah.
So.
But they turned that into a cat fight. But Willie, I didn't see anybody yesterday thinking that it was appropriate that Ivanka Trump tweeted, I want, and by the way, I like Ivanka, always have. We've all known her in New York. We've known her for years, and I've always said nothing but great things about her. And actually always said before they got into the White House, if you want to have something to judge Donald Trump positively by, look at his kids. I've said it a billion times. So this is not personal against Ivanka Trump. I will tell you, this text is repugnant. Put the tweet up. It's repulsive.
Looking forward to serving alongside John Kelly as we work for the American people. General Kelly is a true American hero.
Over the last
it's like
6 months,
literally the least offensive thing about Ivanka's
General
existence.
Kelly needs to report to his boss, Donald Trump, and everybody else needs to report to General Kelly. Looking forward to serving alongside John Kelly as we work for no.
That is honestly the dumbest thing I've ever heard come out of his mouth.
First of all, is this guy an active general?
No.
Is he an active general?
I don't believe so. I think he's retired, but I don't know. But I will say this, like, what kind of bizarre, sick, plutocratic, like, Regency drama are we living in? Like, he has to get his smelling salts out for this complete nonsense.
That's the problem with the White House?
That's the problem with the White House. That's the problem with Ivanka Trump, who's also personally enriching herself, by the way.
Is the advisor to the president.
But then he circles it back, of course, with that he knows her and she's great. I mean, it's just like...
There was a time I thought this was the best part of the Trump administration. And now she's saying she's serving alongside John Kelly as we work for the American public?
I was a little disturbed when, like, I don't know, the human rights monitors in China were detained while they were investigating the horrific sweatshops.
Okay.
Yeah.
We know.
Oh, no, that's nothing.
Okay,
Of course, that's very tasteless to bring up. Right.
Okay.
Joe Scarborough is such a fucking moron. I mean, honestly, like, if that is even worse than David Frum to cite him for anything. Even worse.
Can I just point out that while he is bemoaning the fact that people were being sexist toward her and starting a cat fight.
A daughter.
Being sexist toward Mika.
Right.
all he does is talk over her. He doesn't let her say basically anything. The best contribution that she makes to the show is when she just corrects almost like half of the things that he says, which are wrong.
And then he says, yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's all he lets her do. And so there's that. And then earlier in it, I just wanted to point out that the insult, when you say that Trump insulted her, the president of the United States, the insult that he made toward Mika Brzezinski was that she was bleeding all over her face and tried to crash his party at
Mar-a-Lago.
Mar-a-Lago,
Well,
which should not be having parties.
They did try. He did try. They did try and crash his New Year's party. That was reported concurrently. But wait. I want to just one more thing about Joe.
Bleeding all over
talking
her face.
about. Yes. Well, yeah.
I'm just pointing it out.
The Joe makes an issue of the sexism while he's saying like the daughter doesn't serve next to the general. Like what? The issue isn't that it's the daughter. It's the issue is that it's his kid.
Can I
It's
serve next to the general?
The
I'm
daughter.
the son-in-law.
Now, if son. Yes, well, I mean, you've seen him in a flak jacket.
He's very upset about the article. If you pull it, we can pull the story in the Inquirer about you and Mika. Hold on, I need to go turn the hot water off on some Dominicans. Dad told me to.
It's Ivanka that has repeatedly said the word daughter. Like, I'm a daughter, not, like I want to be a daughter. I don't want to be in the administration. Like she said,
yeah, but that stopped when she officially joined the administration.
What would Joe Scarborough?
She just recently said, I try to stay out of politics. As part of her ridiculous.
She can say that.
What would Joe Scarborough object to, like in the Nazi era? Like
you can serve alongside with Himmler, but you must
Wagner's
be
too
a
loud.
member of the SS.
Honestly, you get your uniforms from the Massachusetts State Troopers. It's embarrassing. It's disgusting.
And
Come up with your own uniform.
What
please.
Hitler is doing with the Jews is tough stuff, and we can talk about that as a separate policy. But the uniforms, it just has no dignity left.
Unbelievable.
In Haiti, like Papa Doc could steal everything and completely wipe out the treasury and have death squads to murder his opponents, but voodoo? You got to move beyond that.
Here is...
That's what Sam Harris would say.
That is exactly what Sam said. I actually think Papa Doc is
All right,
probably the leader that Haiti needs, but voodoo is irrational.
Oh, I want to talk about
I'm
this.
going to do a 3-hour podcast.
You bring up...
on that. I actually don't think voodoo is irrational. You're taking me out of context.
You bring up
Unless
Sam
you're not.
Harris, and this story was sort of funny. I guess it came out of the Guardian that a guy uploaded a photo, and what he did is he darkened it just a little bit, and put it, I guess, on a Facebook page. And this group, right-wing group, anti-Islamic group, look at this. It's just terrifying. Terrifying picture of it's busloads of women in burqas being brought into their country, and they freaked out when they saw this picture of all the women on the buses. And the Norwegian group, the Frydenlandet Vikingstings, I don't know, Fatherland First, posted the photo on its Facebook page, calling it tragic and terrifying. This looks really scary, wrote one of the 13,000 members. Should be banned. You can't tell who's underneath. Could be terrorists. And apparently the photographer had basically just darkened the picture. And when you lighten the picture up, this is what you get. It actually is just not a bus full of women wearing burqas, but instead a bus full of bus seats.
But Sam, this is Sam Harris. First of all, you're totally taking me out of context in that story. But I have a thought.
Didn't even quote you in the story.
You indirectly quoted me and took me out of context by not quoting me, actually, which I made clear in a previous essay called "To Not Quote is to Take Out of Context."
I didn't read that.
You'll see that in an addendum to why I support torture, by which I mean I do not support torture essay, which you've also distorted me on. Everything you guys do is lies.
I feel like
but I would like to propose a
controversial. If this is controversial to you, click through here and read over here after I put you into my sales funnel.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yes, you should bequeath me your estate if you would like to know the true.
Bequeath? Bequeath?
Yeah. Stop taking me out of context. I didn't say that. But here's a thought experiment for you. What if that was women in burqas on those buses? Then we're confronted with an entirely different challenge and a serious conversation that we must have.
Oh, God. Should we play this Hannity thing? Is it good? All right, so Sean Hannity, as you know, Jeff Flake, apparently he's got a book coming out, Conscious of the Conservative. And the son of the ghostwriter of Goldwater's version of that book said, I don't like Jeff Flake anymore. And so Jeff Flake, apparently there was a chapter that was released, and it was basically saying that the Republicans are deluding themselves about Trump, and I've got to try and run for re-election. So please help in any way you can, I think is the subtext of that piece. But Sean Hannity is not having any of it. It's his opening monologue, ladies and gentlemen.
Already saw them fail and fail miserably. They couldn't even repeal and replace Obamacare, breaking a major promise they've been making for 7 years. And what John McCain and others like Lisa Murkowski did last week, it was inexcusable. Now, instead of working to keep their word, well, some of these Republicans, they appear ready to throw in the towel, move on to the next issue, which proves, as we have been saying, that Republicans have no spine, you have no backbone, no vision, no willingness to fight for the American people. You don't have any identity. What do you people stand for now? And then the never-Trumpers, all right, forget them. The so-called Republicans, they want the president to fail just so they can say, I told you so. One example, look at Arizona Senator Jeff Flake. He's releasing a new book. He goes after President Trump and Republicans who
Pause it
supported
for
him.
1 second. Jeff Flake, who, if I'm not mistaken, voted to repeal Obamacare. Right. Okay. I see what you're saying is by not voting to repeal Obamacare, they have no principles. But even though this guy did, the real principle is don't write bad things about Trump. I got it. Continue.
Goes after President Trump and Republicans who supported him. Now take a look at him selling his book.
The party has lost its way. We've given in to nativism and protectionism. There are times when you have to stand up and say, I'm sorry, this is wrong.
I'm very concerned about where the party is going and the kind of the anti-immigration fervor. Somehow conservatism has become, being mean or loud.
No, Senator, you've lost your way. Instead of trying to sell your books, maybe, Senator, you should be focusing on lowering Obamacare premiums. Let's look at your home state of Arizona. Let's see, in the last year alone, they went up 116%, the highest in the nation. So the never-Trumpers, like Senator Flake, they don't seem to understand that by blocking the president's agenda, and you see the reaction he gets around the country, they're only harming you, the American people.
Wow. This is really, I sort of feel good about this on one level because Sean Hannity is completely screwing up his own message, but Flake was with him on all of that.
But not with enough venom.
But now he's coming out an immigrant. And just a reminder, folks, the Republicans aren't against immigrants. They're just against undocumented or so-called illegal immigrants, except for they also now want to pass legislation limiting legal immigration. So
I wrote an essay called "Why We Should Limit Legal Immigration," which
and not for
actually
nothing.
supported
Look,
immigration.
I don't want
take me out of
to.
context.
If Sean Hannity did not have such a large part in hurting this country, in my estimation, and this is not something I would point out, but that dude had either a small stroke or had something go wrong with his Botox or something, because I've watched that guy for 20 years, and he never had that issue on the left side of his face. So we don't need to keep that
face
part
fat
of that segment, but he's got a problem. I don't know what's going on with him.
Serious issues there.
I'm talking about he has something going on with the left side of his mouth.
Nobody calls Sean and asks about his muscular problems with his face.
Yeah, nobody said anything about don't mention anything about the.
You're literally saying he had a stroke. You think?
He's got something going on. I don't know if had a stroke or he had like a Botox shot or maybe he had Novocaine or something. But there's something weird going on with his. Could be that. Could be that. Lip did not recover for that segment. Oh, boy. All right. I don't got too much time. Got another 5 minutes to take some Mayams. Umar Shami, a while back you pushed against my desire of Nazi comparisons should be at least considered. That possible Nazi comparison should at least be considered against anyone running for positions of power in government. I don't get even what that idea is, but okay. I think the never again refrain is meaningless with such an attitude. I just heard the show from last week where you made Hitler comparisons against Trump for a speech you recently made. I totally agree. But why is it appropriate to make such comparison now, but not appropriate to do so with Trump's very first "they are murderers, they are rapists" campaign speech? I mean, I don't know what you're referring to, but the U.S. firing its own ICBMs off their coast to respond to North Korea. Meanwhile, Adam Carolla testifies in front of Congress on the dangers of safe spaces. How is 2017 even real? Oh, that's my notice. If you want a right-wing audience, how is the best way to get it? And Jenks sucked in the debate with Shapiro, as Jenks' argument multiple times were, Google it. Then why are you there if you rely on people Googling your arguments for you? Democrats need to run on lower taxes from an MMT standpoint. Yeah, I mean, look, I agree on the merits, on the politics. I think it's a tough time to try and teach people about MMT as a political agenda, let's say. Leon, I say, great show as always. Please explain the filibuster to an ignorant Londoner, as we don't have this in UK politics. Quite easy. In this country, in the Senate, I should say specifically, the minority, in this case 40 members, can prevent a bill from being discussed or introduced to the floor of the Senate. And so that is essentially the filibuster. But when you do something through reconciliation, all it requires is a 51-person majority to pass. Bullprog. And you cannot prevent it from coming to the floor. Now, you still need a motion to proceed, but it only takes 51 votes. Bullprog, could you get someone to talk about fixed price clinics? I've seen some people in my circle passing this around. This article from Time magazine. The model sounds terrible considering it takes charities to pick up the slack for those who can't pay their full tab, even with a reduced price. Little 1979. What's the name of the article Reagan was quoted in? You should call every day, or better yet, join the show. He's my fave. Signed, future ex Mrs. Reagan. Let's see. Ivana Tinkle, I'm always going to make the point somehow if any person who has a brain can think that a poor immigrant or black person can barely make it day to day is the biggest threat to people's lives is the problem. They have no power over them, and everything they do has very little interaction with their lives. Complete bullshit. Nancy Raygun. Sam, do you know that what James Baldwin, Shimon Peres, Victoria Jackson, I am or Censor Sweep all have in common? Today is their birthday. Happy birthday, Censor Sweep. Dark matter. It's brilliant. Stop global warming. Bring back jobs to America via nuclear fallout in East Asia. We got a glowing Green New Deal. Torian, does Ronald Reagan have his own podcast or online presence? Yes. What's the name of Reagan's podcast?
Hold on,
again?
just 1 second. I'm a subscriber, and it is Redirect Immigration.
Redirect, right?
Redirected Immigration Law and Perspectives. It's really good.
We'll put a link in Majority FM. When Susan Collins called in yesterday and told us to stay woke, I realized the show is completely off the rails, and I love it. Contagious Chameleon.
How about if you come at the Queen, you best not miss? That was amazing.
You felt the presence of God? Sounds like you should check his house for carbon monoxide. MR, Jason's family here today. I don't want to meet them, but they came in. Turned out well, though. He told the story about the telephone interview where I hung up and said I couldn't have gotten that job because I didn't understand a word he said. They loved it. Gave sister and hugged made Jason's twin brother. Oh. Gosh, okay. I think it was a mistake. And Bonora, why, thank you for your kindly dinner invitation. Sure, I would love to try a 30-year-old grape nuts. You have to make that a YouTube segment. We will. Security, identity, politics. Interesting parallels between Jim Baker's new food bowls and Glenn Beck's clay pots that we're supposed to put inside our children. And if we're living in the end times, what's the point of stocking up on food? Well, it can't be totally share.
That's a good point. Is why do you want to drag it out 30 years if it's the actual apocalypse?
Peterman asked me the same thing. Well, if it comes, let's say it's slow. Let's say it. Everybody's like the apocalypse is going to happen like that. What if it's more of like a slippery slope that lasts 29 years? You'll be fully fed throughout the entire thing. Epish. Saw the John Oliver segment on InfoWars. Seemed like they were more shocked at Jones Head's commercial for supplements. I'm sure many of the HBO viewers are buying the same organic shampoo, by the way. Their increasingly white nationalist tilt. It's shocking that the audience was more shocked about the fake doctor lying on his resume than saying that immigrants are disease vermin. I'll never understand this kind of professionalism. I think of the lie Baker and Jones make their money from branded food and supplements. They have to be using that as a front for the money coming in. Oh no, I think they make a lot of money on that. That is the key. That's like what's his face is Adam Carolla's Mangria. It's the same theory.
Jesus.
You want to make money while you're not on air.
That guy is so relentlessly unfunny.
That sounds like it just tastes disgusting.
Calling from a 423 area code. I just got a couple minutes here. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Sorry, I was eating some Lifetime food. Sorry.
Staying alive?
Hey, Sam, it's Zach.
Zach, what's up? You got to be quick,
Staying
bud.
alive,
What's up?
Yeah. I was wondering if Ronald Reagan has a rebellious son named Michael Reagan that calls into like InfoWars.
Oh, you have you've misspelled his name. Ronald Reagan.
I know.
It's Reagan.
I know. It's a joke. Just a real quick thing. Trump celebrating the this like the arbitrary milestone of the Dow Jones, which is no big deal. It has it is basically disconnected from consumer wealth now, we Democrats we were kind of guilty of doing the same thing during the Obama years. We would talk about the
stock
Dow
market
expansion.
as a measure of the economy, right?
It's one of the weaker indexes. Just one quick question. Michael, you're not going to ever retire the Mooch character, are you?
No way.
Mooch is gone, but he's not dead. He's gone. He's not dead. Appreciate
Hey, I'm on
the call.
Fox News.
Gotta jump.
Motherfucking Sarah fucking Huckabee.
Gotta jump. All right, thanks, man.
That broad's still there. I'm fired. It's a fucking travesty.
All right, one more caller, then I gotta wrap it up. I'm sorry, folks. Got a lot of people holding on. I
Hick
apologize.
brother killed a dog.
Calling from a 619 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Doug. I'm.
Hang up on him. We don't have time.
Hello?
Yeah, Doug. You got a quick point?
Doug, I got a poem from. I just got an email poem from Steve Bannon. Can I read it real quick?
Sure.
It says, "No longer giving your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to suck up the American taxpayer, those wretched refuse of your teeming shore, longing to be low-info Democrat voters. Send these homeless tempest toasts to Russia. Russia has too many white people, and we know just how evil white people can be. So world, let's make all Russia. Let's make Russia a little more brown. I will no longer lift my lamp beside our golden door." Signed, Steve Bannon.
Make sure to drink some water too.
Bannon
and also,
sucks at meter.
Doug,
Bannon,
hold on for a second. Do you realize,
you
Doug,
know that
like
Doug
how
is Steve Bannon without Seinfeld royalties?
Doug, what? I mean, what? How incredible! How incredible your articulation of the agenda is. It's pretty good. I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you. That was
core brand proposition.
That was totally on message. All right, folks. 3 more IMs, then we're out of here. Rob Cully, hey, friend, if the world's about to end, why do the F do I need a 30-year lifespan chick feed? Thames Darwin, this Boy Scout thing indicates a coming trend, I think, in which Trump insults core American institutions. Apple pie? I like apples that don't get made into pies, okay? Mom, four at best. It's true. It's really true. And the final IM of the day, ear. The Democrats have basically formed a tenuous alliance with the insurance companies right now to prevent the Republicans from undermining the Affordable Care Act. If the Democrats start going in seriously on single payer, that alliance would be over. All right, folks. See you tomorrow.
It might take all the strength I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there. I wasn't looking when I just got caught between the